I'm Ed Tanner. How long have I been a Mason, and what lodge was I initiated into? I've been a Mason for 58 years. I was initiated at Boone Union Lodge number 304, which at that time was located over top of Smitty's Grocery, which was on the corner of US 42 and Mount Zion Road. The lodge being upstairs had a long line of stairs or steps that you had to go up to get to the second floor, and it was rather small, not as large as some of our lodges today, but very comfortable and very well attended. What influenced me to become a Freemason? My grandfather, three uncles and cousins were all members of Boone Union Lodge 304. They seemed to have a repertoire, or they always had a good thing to say, enjoyed coming to lodge, and it aroused my curiosity as to what was going on, what the Masons were, what they did, and that was the main thing. The camaraderie and the good times that they had together was the main thing that influenced me to ask for a petition to become a Mason. After becoming a Mason, was it expected? It was what I expected it to be? Yes and no. In those days, when you tried to ask a question, well, what are the Masons about? What do they do? The standard answer at that time was, well, we can't tell you, but you will find out. So it was kind of baffling to really think that you wanted to go into an organization that you really didn't know anything about, or that people weren't allowed to tell you what was going on or what you were getting into. And no one ever suggested, well, find some books on Masonry, or find some kind of documentary that will give you some fact or some data that will let you know what you're getting into. And as I said at that time, we can't tell you, but you will find out. What were the degrees like then versus now? Back then, the degree teams, every one that was involved in the degree team knew their lines, they knew where they were, their floor work, they knew what to do, what to say at the proper time. Sometimes there were even as many as 2 or 3 people that knew each part of a degree. Today, we have degree teams that are, number one, they do not have the memory work down, they do not have the floor work down, they do not have the desire to be involved in it full-heartedly. It's a quick process, unless you call in someone from another lodge to help you fulfill a part in a degree team, which is very common. So the degree work or the degree teams today are, shall I say, lackadaisical, or are they just don't want to get involved for some reason, but that is the impression that you have to make upon your candidates, that though they may not be able to see the whole thing at that particular time, but they can hear what you're saying, and being with a voice or a language that can be understood, it can be well received by the candidates, and make an impression on that candidate. My career and what did I do? I was a printer for over 40 years. I worked at 2 places in Cincinnati. or 3 places in Cincinnati, and one finally moved to Florence, and I worked there for a few years until I reached the age of 59, and at that time, electronics was on the threshold of the printing industry, and the manual part was really out on its way out, and I had the opportunity to retire, and I did, and I had a couple years of just being retired until I finally decided that I should probably do something else. And I bought a dump truck, and I ran that for 8 years. It had its ups and downs. It's not like it is today. We worked for one company, and when they shut down, why, everybody shut down. But anyhow, I did that, and then I did, in the meantime, have a Shell station in Covington, Kentucky. I ran that for about 2 years, gave that up as a loss. I also delivered parts for Kentucky Motors, which I enjoyed. Then somehow I got the idea that maybe being a school bus driver would be a great opportunity to make a living. So I drove for Boone County schools for 5 years. Then I switched and drove for Walton Verona independent schools for 5 years. So a total of 10 years, and the opportunity for making a living and enjoying my work just about ran out after 10 years. So I retired from that, and since then I have just enjoyed retirement. I have 5 grandchildren. One's in college, one's a senior in high school, and I have 3 that are under the age of 7. So they are my next door neighbors, and I enjoy spending time with them. We raise a garden. Sometimes we play in the leaves, or sometimes we just run around in the yard, and they have a trampoline that they enjoy, and I enjoy being with them. And it's a great feeling to be involved with not only your children, but your grandchildren, and know that they are as close as a phone call, or maybe as close as the house next door. What changes have I seen in Freemasonry? Starting with the lodge. The main reason, our main object would be the lack of attendance, the lack of your officers not being prepared. There are some lodges that can't open and close without reading it off a sheet or out of a book. Some lodges have lackadaisical clothes that they wear to lodges, cut off shorts or sandals or flip-flops or whatever. When I was initiated, and in the early years of my Masonic travel or Masonic history, every lodge that I attended was well attended by brothers who were well dressed, knew their opening and closing lines, and knew their ritual work. It just seemed like it was more in a strict way of running a lodge, and it was very impressive. It was no shortcuts taken. There were no skip over stuff. So it sort of kind of dwindled down from when I first went in, as far as the dress code or and the dress code is a very, very important thing that I have about Masonry, that I think that if you are well enough to be a member of a lodge, you should be proud of the fact that you are a member of that lodge, and as each lodge is a representation of King Solomon's temple, we should dress appropriately to give respect to the Creator who allows us to meet as Freemasons and allows us to come to these meetings, and we should give back to that Creator our thanks for being able and being dressed properly is one way of doing that. What do I like most about Freemasonry? The one thing I enjoy is meeting new brothers from different lodges, from not only from the Commonwealth of Kentucky, but from neighboring states and different countries. The feeling that you are with family, and it is a family of since we are brothers, we are a family. You are welcomed. You are greeted properly and friendly, and the fact that Masonry has been around for so long that I like the fact that it has survived. I hope that it does survive for eons to come, but the fact that it has made an influence, it has changed people's lives, it has influenced our country, it has influenced our leaders of this country, and it's a good feeling to know that people of high rank have the same beliefs and the same tenets that you do as a member of a Blue Lodge in Union, Kentucky. What's been my favorite role in Freemasonry? I don't know that I have one favorite. I've been Master of Boone Union Lodge twice, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I've been a district deputy, which I enjoyed. I've been a master at Elvin E. Helms in Petersburg. I enjoyed that little lodge down there. The fact that I also do the charges on a couple of the degrees, which I have been trying to have someone to replace or to learn those, but it's been up and down. I used to work second shift, and so therefore I was absent a lot for several years until I got promoted to day shift, and I lost out a little there, but it's been a rewarding with the friendship and the fellowship and the camaraderie that I've had with members of not only this lodge but several lodges. It's been a heartwarming experience, and I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. And I don't think that I would have changed a thing if I had the opportunity, the way things fell into place and the way that I have been received and have been associated with members of different lodges is a one of the greatest feelings that you can have. Who was Elvin E. Helms Jr.? Elvin E. Helms Jr. was the secretary of Petersburg Lodge at that time for many years. His father, Elvin E. Helms Sr., had a garage in Petersburg right across the street from the Masonic Lodge. But Elvin E. Helms Jr. worked for CG&E. He graduated from the University of Kentucky as an engineer, worked for CG&E. The unique thing about Brother Helms was he had no hands. He was born with no hands. His writing was impeccable. It was like a printing machine or printing press of some kind had written his minutes for the meeting, anything that he wrote, very eloquent. He said we went to a meeting out of town one time, and as we were partying, going to our separate cars, his quote was, "You better take this necktie off of him because next time you see me, I'll still have it on." He could not tie the tie. He had his sisters used to tie for him. He never wore lace-up shoes. He always wore slip-ons. And one day he said to me, "Ed, I'm going to University of Kentucky basketball game." He was a big supporter of the University of Kentucky basketball. Wherever they played, he was there if he could make it. All over the Southeast Conference, he attended several games. But anyhow, he said, "I'm going to this ball game. Would you act as secretary for me for that night?" And I said, "Sure." Well, I did, and wasn't very long until he said, "Ed, I'm going to the University of Kentucky basketball game. Would you cover for me?" And I said, "Sure." So this is the reason that I really got involved which I later became secretary of Elvin E. Helms Lodge. We would change the name from Petersburg to Elvin E. Helms. And that's the reason that I became secretary of Elvin E. Helms, was because he wanted to go to basketball games, and after a while, he just said, "Ed, why don't you just be secretary and I'll just turn everything over to you." So out of respect for him and out of the, I guess you'd say the love that the love that I had for him, I did that, and I enjoyed it. And he always came to Lodge when he wasn't at a ball game, and he sat on the sidelines, and he never crossed, never corrected me in anything that I said or any of the things that I did. He was always there to be helpful, but he never questioned what or how I did things or why I did things as secretary, and I appreciated that. And I went to see him the day that he died. When I got to the hospital, why he had already passed. So I did not get to say my last goodbyes to him, but he was most assuredly a most wonderful man that I have probably ever. He was one of the greatest men I ever met, and you wanted to know, and it's hard to describe him because of what you might say the disability that he had, but it wasn't a disability that he had. What do I want my legacy to be? Probably, when it's all said and done, that someone will say, well, he was a good, honest man, well-liked, family man, had several interests in life as far as careers, but managed them, was willing to change, willing to accept change, not only in life, but in the lodge itself and in masonry in general, to be able to associate and converse with people of different lives, different faiths, different creeds, different lodges, to get along well with them and have them say that, well, I remember him and I knew him, and he was a good man to know, and that's what we all hope for, I guess. But yeah, you kind of have to work for it. You kind of have to put some effort into it to have a good legacy or a good remembrance of when you're gone. And I think being in lodge with your brothers and conversing with brothers and mankind wherever leads up to that legacy that will be remembered for, hopefully, for several years.